something about you just because you dance. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And we call each other beloved here. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Sing Sing.
Sing Sing. Do you think we should give each other new names for each other? Instead of calling each other asshole, shithead, dipshit, all that stuff, can we replace those words with like...
Shit dip. Head.
No, kind of words.
Head,
like lovely.
Shit,
lovely.
shit,
Lovely.
Shit.
Friendo. Like No Country for Old Men.
Shit.
All right.
No.
Moving on. That one didn't play out as I thought it was going to. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Matt, how are you?
I'm all right. I feel like I'm in a time machine to the year of 2023.
It is 2023. This movie that came out, we missed. We could have talked about it in 2024. We chose not to because we're dipshits. But it was requested by a few people for us to catch up on, and we are coming up into that summer break period where. As often as the case, one of us or both of us at times will go away, so we have to bank episodes.
All over the place. We're jet setters. We can't be tied down.
Yeah, we're traveling, we're flying. I did the first thing. This is the first time I've ever done this, by the way. I'm very excited by this.
Okay.
I've always seen people wear pajamas on planes on overnight flights.
Oh, on overnights. Okay,
yeah,
sure. Not just like on a 10 a.m.
You gave me that look.
I was about to go.
Just like pajamas on an airplane.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm so doing it. I have a flight that departs at 8 p.m. There is a lounge that I have access to.
Okay.
This is because we have a layover first off.
Look at this guy with a lounge.
And there's a lounge that I have access to that has a shower in it.
Might as well have lounge wear.
And I'm doing it. I'm gonna wear pajamas and see if I can sleep on that overnight flight.
I think it's a worthy test, and you should do what makes you happy.
Can I tell you something even weirder about
Yeah.
it? Not weirder, but like even lamer about it?
Yeah.
Is because it's me, my wife, and my son. We're all traveling together. We got matching pajamas.
Okay, now I don't know if the audience could hear the eye roll. Listen, if you were all wearing pajamas,
Yeah.
dope. I think that's awesome.
Matching
the matching ones.
Matching Ghostbuster pajamas, perhaps?
Okay. If they're branded with a beloved 80s franchise, then I think I can let it slide.
Yeah, Ghostbusters because it has the most iconic logo, but Back to the Future pajamas would be cool. Terminator
Maybe.
2 pajamas might be a little out of season.
Listen, there is something strange in the neighborhood at that
Yeah.
point. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for all of the love you've been showing us over on the YouTube machines.
And TikTok and Instagram.
We've been trying.
Yeah.
We've been trying. Back catalog should be starting to upload soon, or if it's at this point, who knows when this even airs. That should be well and truly on its way. Sherry been working on a bunch of shorts. Obviously, thank you so much for everyone who sticks with the RSS feed and hangs out with us and emails us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
We got our first YouTube comment.
We did.
It's not our first, but it's like one of our first, right?
I will say on a review type thing, it is the first long form thoughtful message.
Yeah. And by the way, listeners, we're very aware we're very small fish in this.
We're babies.
We're babies here, but we want to celebrate the fact that you guys got in touch with us.
Yes, and it seems as though Shahir, the shorts and things like that are pushing things toward that. We're not getting and actually due to the help of people like who I'll read right now, Trevor, it is actually having some lift. You can actually, I don't know if you know this, but I run some YouTube channels, and even though this one's a baby, you can kind of see the right kinds of lift happening in the right places. So it's very nice. Trevor wrote us on the Predator Killer of Killers episode. Says, "Hi fellas, longtime listener. Not only the only podcast about movies, but the best one too." Oh, thanks, buddy. Been taking your advice and cycling through those shorts here on YouTube just to build momentum for you. Thank you very much. Just to say, I am with Shahir on Flow being the best of the decade.
Best emailer so far.
So far, you're really playing all the hits for both of us there, Trevor. My only fault with Flow is that it should have been 8 hours long, although my 8-year-old granddaughter Bonnie might have balked at that as much as she too loved the film. But really, Flow really did flow, had a kind of ambient feel, much like, how do you say that word?
Koyonakatsu. It took me a long time to learn how to say that.
Yeah. Except that Flow had a narrative plot. The ending was surprisingly vague, though. Seriously, I could have sat with those characters floating around the world for hours. Love from the UK. Thank you very much, Trevor. And seriously, Trevor, that is lovely. Even though you agreed with Shahir, the rest of your kind words still put you in the Topam Sky Lounge.
We should do the Katsi trilogy. I think I own them on Blu-ray.
I would have to learn how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's Koyonakatsu, Powakatsu, and I forgot what
Dukatsu.
No, the third one is called Let me bring it up.
Furious Googling. That's what the people come for. Here,
Nakoya Katsu.
there you go.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spoil it for you. I wanted you to come to that by yourself. Thank you so much, Trevor. And everybody, follow Trevor's lead if you'd be so kind. Even if you're listening to this on the RSS feed, pop on over to YouTube, hit that bell and the notifications and all that stuff to your comfort level, and watch those shorts on loop. Some of them are excellent, Shahir. They've been really, really lovely. And it's nice to sort of see just little snippets, because we do these recordings and then I kind of I don't forget the opinions, but I forget the specifics.
And look, full peek behind the curtains of how we're doing this. We are using a service called Descript to do this, which basically we upload the full episode to, and it will just pick out 5 or 6 bites for us that I will kind of then
Well, you do
curate.
video editing to it.
Yeah, and I'll curate and kind of just look at and go, okay. And, we'll trim those up and kind of make them sort of succinct 10 to 15 second pieces, or sometimes 30-second pieces. And yeah, it's really fun to listen to. Sometimes I get a little jealous when I look at it and it's only picked out quotes from you for the entire episode. And
I'm loud.
And I'm like, oh man.
I'm loud.
Or sometimes it'll do the other way. So but there's no rhyme or reason to this. It's kind of fun to just see what the system kind of picks up as interesting quotes. Also to Trevor, I hope I responded to that YouTube comment as well, and I hope that your granddaughter, I believe it was, Bonnie, gets to see Robot Dreams as well.
Oh,
that would just be delightful if she watched both of those this year, because I think that was so terrific.
There you go.
And maybe get her to watch the Keanu Katsu trilogy. Honestly, the Katsu trilogy, especially Power Katsu, the second one, is incredible visuals that you can just throw on and watch. They're kind of like these long visual poems that are just like series of intricately, beautifully sequences cut together with incredible music.
That's cool.
So she could watch those as well. But I want to go over to an email that we also got from Muhammad, who writes in, "Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Last week I saw Mission Impossible Final Reckoning for the second time.
Whoa.
And I slightly agree with your assessment that this film was haphazardly connected to the previous entries, especially the rabbit's foot being the proto-entity." Is that a spoiler?
I don't know if the movie cares enough.
No, I don't think it matters. Though I still think in terms of relevancy, did and Final Reckoning hold up well due to the given proliferation of these, pardon my French, goddamn parasite AI modules. I just wish the script was better written. I must say that the underwater scene is downright nightmare fuel for people who are scared of the water. I also saw Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gates, a truly captivating, utterly beautifully looking film whose beauty is juxtaposed by the ugly themes of power, immigration, corruption, and class warfare.
Oh.
I think this film should be talked about more since its themes have become so much more relevant. I'm going to stop there just because, this is my hat coming on. But Muhammad, this film is talked about immensely as one of the downfalls of the modern studio, of the 70s studio system. Heaven's Gate is kind of the poster child for the big auteur flop.
Before Megalopolis.
Yeah,
I know.
Actually, Megalopolis and Heaven's Gate would be in the same conversation.
Double feature.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, he's bringing it back to movie theaters.
Hey.
He's doing a tour.
Why not? Michael Cimino could be so lucky. But while listening to your Predator episode, I came up with a scenario of my own, inspired by this crappy direct-to-DVD 2009 film Red Sands, where a bunch of U.S. soldiers destroy an ancient statue in Afghanistan, only to be haunted by the spirit residing within it. So here's my pitch. What if during the 80s, amidst the backdrop of the USSR invasion of Afghanistan, an elite group of US soldiers woke up to a comatose predator whose ship landed in Afghanistan millennia ago, and those soldiers find themselves being hunted by the predator with glorious 80s synth music. Wish you all the best.
Yo.
I have a little flip on this. I think this is a great pitch.
I love the synth.
I love 80s synth. Yeah, like Predator with 80s synth music would be fantastic. I would love to see a predator deal with a ghost. So I would love to see like the predator have to deal with something it does not understand.
Like the Predator versus Annabelle?
Yeah, Predator versus Annabelle. 100%. I would love
We are just printing money for these studios at this point.
Predator versus Ghostbusters.
Yeah, there you go. My Jack the Ripper idea. This is all coming together.
It is all coming together. Thanks again, Muhammad, for writing us in.
Thank you.
And everyone who writes us in.
At onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Write us in.
Which is how we got to this episode.
That is
about,
true.
About Greg Queta's film Sing Sing, which was highly praised last year. Coleman Domingo was nominated for an Oscar. And to be honest with you, here's my hot take. After looking at this film and seeing who else was nominated for Best Actor, I like Adrian Brody, who won Best Actor, but I was like, Coleman Domingo should have won. 100% should have won Best Actor from 2024.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree at first pull there. I have a problem. I've noticed a thing about my opinions, Shahir,
Okay.
and they are often tempered by the immediacy in which I have seen the piece of media in question. Not immediacy, the closeness. How soon after I've seen it to when I am talking about it.
Sure.
So, for instance, right now I'm like, yeah, absolutely, he totally should have gotten it. But I might go watch The Brutalist again and be like, I don't know.
Here are the nominees, just for memory's sake. It's Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing.
Yeah.
Like Adrian Brody won. Sebastian Stan's performance as Donald Trump in The Apprentice, I might have given it to just for the timeliness of it all. But watching this, Coleman Domingo is the winner for me, without a doubt. So that kind of gives you some impression of what I think of this film.
What if everything else is bad?
I hated this movie. Absolutely loathed it. And that's the end of the podcast.
Yeah, wow.
Could you tell us what it's about?
Well, I can't tell you, Shahir, but the Internet Movie Database sure can. They say that Sing Sing is Divine G, imprisoned at Sing Sing for a crime he didn't commit, finds purpose by acting in a theater group alongside other incarcerated men in this story of resilience, humanity, and the transformative power of art.
The transformative power of art, which we've seen many a times before, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
That's also true. Also, when you just add the letter after the front of it.
Art.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, what you've just done is
art.
Is art.
Yeah. It's not good art, but I know what I like.
It's very much in the Bart Simpson mode of comedy, but
although that's
Millhouse. No, that's
the Barney? No.
No. It's the kid.
What's the bully?
The bully kid.
What's the bully kid in Simpsons?
Nelson.
Hey, we both did it at the same time.
There is a bully in this film, but one who will learn to love the importance of the art world, and who also was actually the real life inspiration for Coleman Domingo's character, that is Divine G, who is played here by Clarence who the real Divine G is Clarence Macklin. And the unusual thing about this film, well, it's actually not particularly unusual, but it is something of note given what the film is. Is that many of the actors alongside Coleman Domingo are actually participants of the rehabilitation through the arts program, the RTA program that was done at Sing Sing. And many of them are still incarcerated at this point. So this was actually one of those rare examples of a film that kind of blurs that line between documentary and narrative.
Sure.
Though it is purely fiction. It is a fictional retelling of real life events.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things I really, really loved about Thing, and was that one was that it really didn't take the time, and this is a positive thing, even though as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh, is that a bad thing? To examine the crime and the injustice that had gone on here that led to the exoneration of one of the main characters. And I think that's interesting because the prison genre, there's an entire genre of films, the prison drama.
Yeah.
That date all the way back to, Cool Hand Luke.
Prison is a dramatic place.
Probably the most famous in this in the American retelling of this is The Shawshank Redemption. We talked a few weeks ago about French film Un Parfait, which is an extraordinary prison film as well. So all of those kind of, to the extent that there is like a formula to these genres, which is about the incarcerated man, typically the incarcerated man, and their path to redemption, either through the exoneration of their crime or through the understanding of what their criminality was and learning to heal from it. It's interesting that, America has one of the highest populations of prisoners on the planet.
It is interesting.
Our approach to rehabilitation is often not seen as progressive as many other countries in the world,
aka privatized.
Yeah, it is quite a cruel, intimidating system. You and I actually live very close to Rikers Island, which is one of the most notorious prisons on the planet. And it's interesting that within the genre of prison films, there is a concerted effort to look at the humanity of prisoners. but I don't know if that's entirely reflected in our public consciousness about the rehabilitation process and what prisons go into. Now, I'm saying that again as a very privileged person. If you have been a victim of a crime, your view of what to do with the person who has committed that crime, if they've been caught and put in, committed for that crime.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone's thinking you're saying that we shouldn't have prisons. I don't think that's the vibe you're giving off.
But what I am saying is I guess particularly through cinema, look at the value of the rehabilitation process. Like one of my favorite stories recently, and this is probably just because I've become a cat owner of recent years, is that there are prison systems which have cats that they provide to prisoners who can look after them. And they've found that, in many studies that those prisoners become less violent offenders, less recidivist in prison, and less likely to commit crimes within the prison system. Mm-hmm. I am all for looking at the humanity of these people.
That's because the cats are taking all the crime jobs.
Top cats in there, like running a gang. I bet that fully checks out. Yeah. The other thing is seeing Paul Raci in this.
Right,
I was like, just after seeing Sound of Metal, I was like,
Jamie clocked it instantly. She did the Leo snap pointing at the thing.
He's like, he's there to look after us all.
I want to swing back to what you sort of said about this movie, and I think you did say it as a positive. I very much agree. I loved that this movie the point of this movie was not what crimes the men did or did not do, whether it be our two main characters who, spoilers for some of this, may, or at least at this point, may or may not get exonerated. The exoneration is a plot lever, not a plot point.
Yeah.
And I think it is more about finding meaning and hope and joy in a place where those things are severely lacking. And it just happens to be a prison. I think because the way that the characters interact case in point, in this movie, there's not a single interaction truly that's the focus of the frame with a guard.
Yeah, no.
Right?
I mean,
there's one thing in the beginning when they're standing in a line and something happens, he's walking down the hallway. That's it. And I clocked that right after the movie had finished. And I was like, this is really great because and don't get me wrong, stories about prisoners interacting with guards can also be super interesting. I loved Orange is the New Black. I love a bunch of different movies in this sort of genre. But it was very refreshing to not have this be about oh man, did he or didn't he do his crime? Has he learned from his crime? That's not the point. The guards aren't being malicious or helpful or the humanity is not being brought about or focused on in those ways. What it is you're giving and teaching a group of men essentially a vocation, letting them be artists. And that in and of itself is helping with whatever rehabilitation process is going. Again, it's interesting because most of these men are actually incarcerated and played themselves. I don't know a lick of what they've done.
No.
And I'm sure if I heard their crimes, I would make my very poignant judgments about it. Not that fucking matters. And but that's this movie chose to focus on the cliche way of saying it is the healing power of art. But I think the better way of saying it is just how do you survive and better yourself if you want to in a place that is not designed on average to do that.
The other thing, going for what you said here that I think is really interesting is in terms of what's in the frame and what's not in the frame is the fact that the movie opens with kind of a Hamlet soliloquy that Divine is delivering right at the very beginning of the film. And I was like, there was a part of me that was just a little bit reticent of the idea that it wasn't just rehabilitation through art, but rehabilitation through a particular story, a particular play. And I was like, oh, this is going to, we're going to do King Lear or something like that.
They throw that right out the window and I love it.
And I love, in fact, the play that they're doing is ridiculous. It is a time-traveling mummy play or Egyptian play where I believe somebody is trying to find their mummy and gets confused and travels back through time through a bunch of different characters who they have
a gladiator, a pirate, a Wild West theme, Freddy Krueger for some reason.
Yeah. And so, and what's great about that is that while there are moments where characters get to express their inner thoughts through the characters that they're playing, that kind of layered set of performances that films like this do, they're also not really trying to anchor the prisoner's trauma or the prisoner's rehabilitation through a particular work of art. And that's something I just kind of like really responded to in terms of like the easy thing to do would be to make it like a particular, you know, like do Romeo and Juliet, do King Lear, do something like that.
As Paul Ricci?
Ricci?
We know Paul Ricci, but it's spelled differently. His Brent, the teacher, says it's about the process. The process is the point here. And I too clocked that. I really was super happy that that wasn't going to be like, it's Macbeth that healed the soul. Not that Macbeth can't heal your soul.
But you know, like if they do a murder scene or something like that and have to
but it's also not about that. It's about literally the process of making art being the redemption arc or the just sort of healing nature of making it. It doesn't matter what the art is. If you're making it, you're making progress. And that's cool as hell. And I've believed that for a long time. And this, I'm heartened in a very minor way that programs like this do exist in prisons, because I guarantee you, along with the cats thing, along with a lot of other stuff, it goes a long way, I think, anyway, at my minimal, hey, I almost got a psych minor. It does a lot. It does a lot to move at least towards rehabilitation more so than other programs do.
And I think, you know, like when it comes to budgets and, you know, what have you for prisons, I think the argument is often, you know, like the division between security versus rehabilitation. And particularly in the United States, I think we have opted away from rehabilitation, you know, like throw away the key. You know, most prison narratives involve a joke about male rape at some point, you know, dropping the soap and that sort of thing. But, you know, these are horrific instances that people have to endure. And I think, you know, the thing that we've been talking about, particularly over the last year, is like the nature of empathy and the empathetic quality that we're looking for in films to help us understand the difficulties with which people are going through. And even in situations where we can't understand what a person has done, you know, there are people in, you know, I'm sure even in this movie that have done horrific things, trying to find, you know, the moments where we can peer through someone's humanity within that. And there's a moment in this that where I think is really beautiful, which is that there's a rehearsal going on. And Clarence, the original Divine G, is doing a soliloquy because he's playing Hamlet. Yeah, and
he beats out Coleman Domingo's playing Divine
G. Just as a side here, I love that the Divine G kind of like is upset by not, you know, having to take second fiddle in this film or in this particular play, but also accepts that it doesn't matter and kind of like lets it go very, very quickly.
Yeah. So Coleman Domingo's Divine G. Let's call. We've already established that the characters playing the other characters, just for the sake of simplicity for the narrative for the listener. Divine G, we are talking about Coleman Domingo, and Clarence, we are talking about the actor who is Divine G. So we'll just go by character names.
But and so there's a sequence where Clarence is delivering a Hamlet monologue, and obviously there is a whole beautiful thing here about like what it means to be the king, you know, like, and there's and Divine G kind of delivers this sort of beautiful thing, which is that like everyone expects us to walk in here with our heads held down, but Hamlet needs to walk out on the stage, and Hamlet owns the stage, and Hamlet owns everything. And then there's a moment where someone walks behind Clarence, and he, you know, immediately goes into prison mode, which is that don't walk behind me, you know, don't sneak up behind me kind of thing. And obviously the language is more flowery than I'm making it seem here. But there's a beautiful moment, and I think it's the character of Mosey says, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about, which is that I once saw a man, you know, walk behind someone and slit his entire throat opened up.
Yeah.
But he said, but that's not what we're here to kind of express or work through. What we're here to work through is the fact that we need to be in a place where that is not normal, where the things that you are experiencing in your day-to-day life in prison are not normal. And in fact, what's normal is us, you know, working through a piece of art, collaborating together, talking to each other, getting in touch with our emotions, you know, trying out exercises that help us, you know, disinhabit ourselves from our bodies, you know, which is an acting trait, and being able to like play other people. And, you know, I think there's a lot of, you know, you see it in school programs as well. You know, the first thing that gets cut in school programs are
lunch.
funding for the arts.
Oh, yeah.
Lunch and funding for the arts. But you know, the power of, you know, we're speaking to the choir here, but the power of what the arts can offer in terms of like allowing people to inhabit other people, and also in allowing people to empathize, you know, through art. You know, that's
art is an empathy vehicle.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that people that show less empathy than other people have not actively engaged with any they've actively engaged in less forms of art. I won't even say what kinds of art, because it's so many.
No, and also treat that art as transactional. You know, like, oh, you played this song, I like this song because it made, you know, it has this good thumb, and that's it. Whereas, like, you know, people who have to actually engage in the arts, you know, like make something, you know, like talk about it, you know, try to ascertain what's the meaning of this, go through that process, you know, experience more in terms of a richness of life.
The art too is kind of, it's obviously at the forefront of this film, but the thing that actually, I liked that this movie surprised me in a lot of different ways. It didn't make it about the stuff that we've talked about, either the prison industrial complex or the did they not do their crime, or guards messing with people or anything like that. It focused on the art. I liked that. I really loved the subversion slash, I guess not subversion, but I didn't really know this till the end of the film, having the actors be play themselves basically for a lot of it. And then another thing I really liked was even and we'll get into spoilers now here, but the tragedy in the film is Mike, who is played by Sean San Jose, basically is Divine G's best friend. Mm-hmm. And they've been in this program forever. They even go and recruit Clarence, which was fun because basically no one but Divine G wanted to recruit Clarence.
Yeah.
And it turns out he was really good, but also took a lot of Divine G's roles. But when Mike passes away about 2/3 through the movie, it happens in a way after he's sort of opening up to Divine G, because their cells are next to each other. Yeah. And it's a sad story he's telling.
About his grandmother.
Crying. Yeah. And then he dies. And at first, at least I read it, I was like, oh, did he kill himself? Because it starts with the bunk being turned over, and like it's basically like the cleanup crew you hear on the radios being like, hurry up, gotta get lunch. You're like, it's very, you know, it is the process, it is a business. And I read it first as suicide, and I was like, oh God, that's awful. And then about maybe, you know, 1/3 through the next scene, someone mentions brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
And it was a real kick to the attention head for me, because you don't often see that happen in one of these movies. It's suicide, it's a shanking, it's something else. Yeah. What this did for me was kind of in this place, which again is portrayed, I would say, safer than most prison movies, right? That everyone is still human. Everyone is still susceptible to the randomness of life and death. And it was something I was not expecting to be the catalyst of why this character was no longer with us. And I thought it was a very cool choice to do that, because it didn't take away anything from any of the other stuff that they're trying to do. It just sort of added to it. If it had been a suicide or a murder, you would look for motive. Again, that's something that I don't think this movie is terribly concerned about, is motive. And that element of a brain aneurysm killing someone, honestly, one of the most random ways someone can die is seemingly, you don't even question motive. This is just, oh shit, we are all human in this space as well. And I found that a very smart tool to keep the movie in the lane that it really wanted to stay in, while also engaging with those particular kinds of empathetic moments.
Yeah. I think, you know, I want to actually talk a little bit here about the director, Greg Quedar, who made another film, which I had not seen, called Transpicos. And, you know, it's interesting, over on the Sean Fennessy on The Big Picture has an interview with him from last year, which I listened to. And it's great because Greg Quedar talks about the fact that, like, he basically had like a moment pop because of that first film, and then didn't make anything for another 8 years because they were trying to develop things. And that film has a sort of border control kind of thriller element to it. And so for a while, the only films that they were kind of getting offered were, basic thrillers for a long time. But he had read this story in Esquire magazine, right as that film was coming out, and was like, the longer the process went, where he couldn't really identify what he wanted to do, he got closer and closer to realizing that Sing Sing was a movie that he really actually needed to do, or felt was compelling in terms of like identifying who am I as a filmmaker. And one of the things that I really loved about the way this film was put together is that Parker Laramie, who's the editor, kind of really makes it move through the time period like really fluidly. It's beautifully scored as well. And, shot on 16 millimeter.
I love Super 16.
Yeah. And there's a sort of intimate, glowy warmth to this.
You saw a couple hairs fly by. I don't know. I love it.
It looks gorgeous. And again, reminds you a little bit of Sound of Metal.
Yeah.
In terms of that like sort of textural quality that we love about it. But I think the movie like really moves along. And so to come back to your thing about Mike's death, it is that sort of beautiful thing, which is that it is like time is passing, like, as much as these guys are, like trying to work towards a goal, time is passing.
It kind of, other than Mike's death and people getting out possibly, time seems to stand still. The movie starts with them having just completed their play.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next play?
What are we doing now?
Then they even at the end of this movie, they complete a play. Okay, what's the next play?
Yeah.
Like you are in this prison, in prison systems, in a time loop, essentially, even in this place that is hopefully helping with some rehabilitation.
And you can see as well, like like at the beginning, Divine G has he has a sort of a scam that he's running on a new prison inmate where he's like, hey, I gave you this stuff. It's not what you give him back.
Clarence's.
Yeah. And it's prison rules, and the opportunity for him is to look at what he's doing through this theater program and really, really think about, like what it means to do that. And, like no better exemplified through the line that I quoted here at the beginning, which was that we don't call each other the N-word here. We call each other beloved. Like how powerful is it to like transform from one to the other? So this was based on an Esquire article that came out in 2005, I believe.
Okay.
By John H. Richardson. I just want to read you just a couple of lines from it. But this jumped out at me when I read the article today. Watching killers sing and dance is an odd thing. First it hits you, gosh, they're nervous, excited, giggly, and shy, desperate for appreciation and recognition, just like everyone else. Then you think of what did they do to get in here, and you feel ashamed, as if your recognition of their humanity was actually a moment of weakness. Shouldn't these guys be punished? We're not in the punishment business, says Sing Sing Superintendent Brian Fisher. Going to prison is the punishment. Our mandate is a safe, clean facility. From a pragmatic point of view, he says inmates who are involved in activities tend to stay out of trouble. They learn to work hard, to commit to something, to defer gratification. Underpaid guards who resent the fully equipped convict weight rooms quickly learn that the inmates with the biggest muscles tend to be the one who cause the fewest problems. And with convicts going home at an alarming rate, 630,000, 100,000 a year, every bit of self-discipline they pick up is a plus for you and me, their future neighbors. Fisher doesn't mention the ancient idea that literature and art are an essential part of the person's moral education, deepening our empathy for other people. But that's implicit in the program, rehabilitation through the arts, it called itself. But is it true? Can you really rehabilitate a man? Does singing and dancing really heal? Can slapstick save your soul? And to that end, I think about one of the first things that Divine mentions when he comes in. Clarence mentions when he comes into the group, and he's tasked, and they're sort of trying to pick what's going to be their next play, as you kind of mentioned. And they're talking about like a play that Divine G has written about like a music studio that's going to be that's being taken over by someone, or he's selling his soul out, and Clarence is, with all these people in here going through so much, wouldn't it be better if we did something to make them laugh? Like couldn't we lighten the mood here? And I think that was like just a really beautiful insight, and it reminds me of Preston Sturges' film Sullivan's Travels, which is like, do we need to do the heavy tome versus a comedy?
Side note, I'm so sorry. I was just digging in for a fact based on the things you were saying. Yeah. And then I noticed that I think, and people are probably screaming at us in their own ear pods that know more about this movie than we do. So Clarence, the actor who plays Clarence, is actually Clarence Divine I. Macklin.
Oh, right.
Divine G actually is. There's a cameo from the real Divine G, who is the guy who comes and has him sign a book.
Yeah.
No, who has him sign the book in the beginning, not the guy who comes back.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we
apologies.
There were two Divines, and we were getting confused there. I believe maybe. Hey, email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com if we're still wrong.
Yeah, that's the other benefit of emailing us in. You can tell us we're idiots.
Tell us we're wrong, and we have to read it by law.
Yeah, and we will.
Not maybe not out loud to you, but we'll read it.
So I deeply fell in love with this movie. There's a moment towards the end of this where I just broke down and cried. You know, like there's this sort of like, and it's followed by the line is things smell different out here. You know, the air is different out here, and it's like they're divided by just a fence line. And when Clarence in that scene says, "You helped me get out of, my beloved, you helped me get out of here, beloved." It's that sort of sense of like the power of naming and thinking about what you're saying.
Sure.
Is so palpable here. So I really, really love this. And I think I don't think the movie made a lot of money. There was a little bit of controversy about the A24 not putting this up for Best Picture. It kind of, fell by the wayside as they were promoting other films last year. I think The Brutalist in particular. But I was reading interviews with David Fincher this week. I had a book and I'm just kind of thumbing through it, and he said this one thing that I'm thinking about a lot. I've actually said something else that he said before, which is about films that scar. We talked about that in our top 10 episode. But this other one that just really grabbed me this week was a lot of movies make money. And he says, but there are other movies that are worth money. Okay. And I thought about that in relation to the conversation around Sinners, for example, just understanding that movie is worth money, not just making money.
Right.
We talked about Neja on this podcast, like the billions of dollars that has brought in. But I think what he's getting at, what Fincher is getting at, what I'm sort of extrapolating from that when it comes to this, is that this isn't a movie that made a ton of money. I think it probably did fairly well. It was a fairly low budget. But when you talk about like value, this is a movie that's worth money. It's worth a lot. And in fact, its longevity is going to be immeasurable over time.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a film that will be forgotten for a long period. Not least of which is, just the sort of very superficial thing here. Colman Domingo is magnificent.
Yeah.
Colman Domingo is just like magnificent in this movie.
Also, shout out to making smaller films. So I just was kind of looking it up. This movie had a budget of around $2 million and it made globally 5.3. Right. So you're making your money back. That is a success. That is, it's a success from countless other ways. Of course, Colman Domingo's performance, everyone notwithstanding, but even from a monetary value, even for a Oscar nomination, like you're right. It is worth money. It's not just making money.
Yeah. I think he was talking about that in relation to Zodiac.
Well, that's sure. There's just, I also didn't know, as I was digging through some stuff about this movie, which I guess makes sense, but it was only shot in 18 days.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me.
Yeah.
But okay. Like whenever I read something like that, I'm just like, shut the fuck. What? God, it makes me feel bad about everything I do.
Yeah. But I think, there's for one, on a practical level, there's a containment to it.
Sure.
It is sort of one sitting. And from what I understand, Colman Domingo is coming in the midst of doing a couple of other things, including filming sequences for Rustin, his film that came out the year previously, and he was also nominated for Best Actor for.
Yep.
And Colman Domingo has been around for a long time as well, so like 30 years in the business, and it's just great that like he's finally getting a place and recognized. Not least of which is he is often the most beautifully dressed man at every award ceremony he goes to. And secondly, I don't know which talk show it was, but he talks about his meet cute with his partner.
No, I don't know.
Who his husband, who he's married to. And it is one of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard in terms of like how two people met. It was like they were standing outside of a CVS looking for each other because they saw each other and were like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen. You got to go see that. It's an incredible performance. not just because it is full of all the things that we expect of a best actor, but because he is sharing the stage with people who are non-actors. The performance also feels very generous. There's another quality of this film, which I think that everyone was paid the same on this movie.
Yeah.
There was a equal distribution of payment on this. And it, like, from my point of view, the sort of morality of trying to set up a production that does that is a really wonderful thing and should be celebrated, and will be remembered, hopefully, as well. So there's just a lot of, like, this movie kind of wraps itself in goodwill, or presents itself with so much goodwill that it's hard not to kind of like recommend it in terms of like both the goodwill of understanding what the power of the arts are. You know, like I was thinking about there's that Mike Birbiglia film that came out a couple of years ago that we were going to do we didn't do it on the podcast, but Don't Think Twice.
Oh yeah,
the theater troupe movie, which is kind of like the comedic version of this, but it's very good, by the way. But you know, like that power, that transformative power of actually like setting the stage and actually going through the process and putting yourself up and to be vulnerable in front of other people for the audience and like really responding to like how art makes you do that.
Yeah.
And then the production itself, like the entire production itself is filled with the fact that it's filled with the real people.
I was trying to think of the last Coleman Domingo film that I saw. And I think it is, I wanted to see Drive-Away Dolls. I did not see Drive-Away Dolls, but I think it was Candyman.
Oh yeah.
The remake of Candyman.
Yeah. Was he the Candy? No, he wasn't the Candy. No. He was in that. Yeah. I mean, I'm remembering the other actor, the lead actor. I'm going blank on his name, but he was in Aquaman as well. He was Black Mamba.
Oh yeah.
Black Manta.
Black Manta.
Black Manta.
Black Mamba is a different character.
Yeah. Just, you know, like, filmed in 18 days, transformative power of film. Like the actual, I think the great thing is that the process of making the film would have been transformative for everyone who worked on it.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. I feel like, so the movie is about the transformative powers of creating art and the process thereof.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of doing a process to make that, like you're arting in your art. Yo, dog, we heard you liked art, so we put some art in your art.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fucking cool. Like
it's just this wonderful approach to like the movie doesn't have to be built upon the sort of methodologies that we've come used to. Instead, we can really learn from the process here, learn from what the actual movie's about, and embrace that in the process of making it ourselves.
The equity that you were talking about, like this movie is both from a narrative perspective and a production perspective, kind of like it's a letter to what the filmmakers want the world to be, what they want a prison system to be.
Yeah.
They want equity. Oftentimes prisoners are paid the essentially slave wages, if at all. And they want not just to rot in a cell, but to try to have pets or create things. Again, making that to the warden or whatever you had talked about from Sing Sing, saying the thing of like, this is good for everyone. 300,000 X a year, get out.
630, 100,000.
Yeah. Like, so like you should want them rehabilitated.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are we doing?
And, you know, like even just in that sort of conversation about the prison industrial complex, the Ava DuVernay's documentary on Netflix, The 13th, about the 13th Amendment, which basically enshrines the idea that prisoners can be treated as slaves, often economic slaves as well. And so, you know, that idea that you're talking about in terms of equity, look, again, we're coming from a real place of privilege here in terms of like, we're not necessarily dealing or talking or thinking about people who are the victims of crimes here. We're talking about the people that actually committed those crimes. But I would hope, and I'm trying to, you know, say that with the hope that I'm never in that situation, but I would hope that like we could see the humanity in the people who might harm us. Because if we can't, you know, then what are we?
Yeah, I mean, there is...
it's a pure hypothetical, and it requires...
the pendulum between vengeance and empathy is logic to emotion. Like, the spectrum is going to be all over the damn place. Like, it is dependent on who you are in what equation.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I think this is an interesting thought experiment. Like, because I 1,000% agree with you bringing up that, like, we're not talking about, the victims of crimes and these are the people that perpetrate them. I think for a healthy society and system, there obviously needs to be accountability, punishment for crimes, etc. And I think people who are wronged should get some form of justice one way or the other. Those crimes are all different. I agree with some laws. I disagree with others. But the thing that I think that this movie kind of speaks to as well is, and because it doesn't deal with like the victims of whatever crimes that these men have committed, I think a healthy rehabilitation system or a criminal justice system needs to be maintained by a bunch of bodies that are obviously not involved in the specific crime that's happened. Like you need all kinds. You need the people that were wronged, that want justice and or vengeance. You need the people that are trying to think of the system as a whole, building art programs, trying to make sure that they're not just locking people up to make them more criminal-esque and then releasing them eventually. Like it needs to be a balance of all of those things, which I am no way saying it is easy. It is absolutely insanely difficult. Other countries, I think,
this is the Netherlands, probably.
I was gonna say the Netherlands. Like, what was that Michael Moore movie where he went and stole everything good from other countries?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that works in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
Who knows if that would work in the United States? I don't think just taking what the Netherlands does and putting it into the United States would just work. I think sadly our societies are just different and it wouldn't quite work, but you could take things and learn from it. You can adjust and you can play.
Small programs like this actually are kind of small indicators of like, rehabilitation programs. The cats. I find
that change in this area, especially in the United States, comes in small forms that honestly establishments don't pay attention to until they are actually in effect in a way.
Yeah.
Like the group, I can't remember what it starts with R or something.
Rehabilitation through the arts. Through the RTA.
Like when they do the play in front of those people and they're all just sitting there and they're like, you picked that scene, and then they're like, oh, they loved it, which is funny.
Well, it was a questionable choice.
It was a choice. You should have done a different one
of a lot of stabbing.
Yeah,
and battles.
But actually, that scene speaks again to this movie's mission. These men are so lost in the art and the fun that they are having in this program that they do not even think about they weren't acting in that moment for that panel to get those new curtains. They were acting for themselves. And, that could backfire on them, of course, but like they were in the process. This whole movie is about the healing process of art. And at every turn when it could have zigged into a different story that is less clear or not just about that, it deftly and skillfully stays in the lane and just keeps on. But it was great. It was so good.
Yeah. I haven't done the Criterion Corner for a long, long time. I used to.
Oh God.
Used to be a thing. It was probably like 400 episodes ago.
My bones are dust.
Yeah. I used to do this thing called the Criterion Corner where I'd recommend another film, but there's one particular film. It's not actually in the Criterion Collection.
Well, then, okay.
But I'm calling it the Criterion Corner because it's got a nice little alliteration.
Because it's sitting right outside the Criterion.
And also,
Corner.
Hopefully, one day Criterion will sponsor us.
Oh, and maybe you can go to the closet.
Oh man, I would so dream.
Yeah.
I actually they had a public thing for the closet where you could go. And I got in line, but like the line was like 2 hours long.
1,000%.
And I was like, I can't do this. I've got to go to a baseball game. My kid's baseball game. And let me put it to you this way. It was real touch and go.
Okay.
I was like,
it's only 2 more hours to get in the closet.
But the film that I really want to recommend, if you like Sing Sing or if you love Sing Sing, was a Chinese film by Zhang Yang called Quitting. I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before. I talked about it even recently I didn't see the film at Sundance, but Will Tempfer talked about East of Wall, which is a film which used real people in the situation to portray themselves. And Quitting is a Zhang Yang film from 2001 about a former drug addict playing himself and trying to go through the rehabilitation process, including going through a sort of a facility, a rehabilitation facility. And everyone in the film are the actual people that helped him through his rehabilitation, including the nurses, the doctors, his parents, everyone in that movie are the people that actually went through that process with him.
Cool.
And they give extraordinary performances. And so when I saw Sing Sing, obviously there's a sort of amazing narrative construct around the idea that they used real prisoners to actually do the story that they're talking about, but it also that idea of embodying within a production process real actors in that way has been done before, and I think done beautifully, and they're not at odds with each other. They're in fact complementary, and I wanted to like really shine out this film, Quitting, which I saw many years ago. I still own a copy of it on DVD. I don't think it plays on my DVD player here, but just a really beautiful film about I think in that way, the way the people who love us can help us through the worst times in our lives. And, Sing Sing is no different to that. But yeah, just extraordinary film. And I think it was Anika who writes us in, who recommended this to us. And we, forever grateful that it was so highly recommended. I remember when we did our top 10 of last year, I was like, I think this is one we should have done, but we never got around to.
There's only 52 weeks in a year.
It is. And, it's great that we have a little bit of time right now where, in between that sort of blockbuster summer.
Yeah, this is the best part, everyone. Even we don't know when this is going to air yet because Shahir and I, there's travels, there's things, so we're banking a bunch of stuff.
I put a calendar out. I have because we each take our fair share of social media posting. I actually put a calendar out. So it's going to be Materialists, Sing Sing, 28 years later, then Superman.
You better pray I don't adjust the deal. What if I throw
Formula One in there?
Yeah, or what else is out?
What if you just threw a real spanner in the works and decided you wanted to do Alien vs. Predator?
Yeah, maybe. Two. Yeah, only the second one. We won't even talk about the first one, the quintessentially better one. Yeah. No, that's good. Hey, everyone, the neat part is even I don't know when this comes out. I'll read. That's my redo. No, it's helpful to do this. And look, sometimes films find you at the right time. And I don't just mean that for the help in our schedule. I mean, I don't know. This movie does hit, I think, a little differently in 2025 than it would in 2023. I think there's some things going on in the world. You can listen to any of our other episodes for that stuff. We'll keep it. We'll honor what Sing Sing's doing and stick in our lane right now.
Yeah.
But it does. It feels both timely and adjusted for the time. And I think,
as I've said before, empathy is the thing we're looking for.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been the only podcast about the film Sing Sing. Shahir, when you are not looking for your mummy, where can folks find you?
You can find me traveling back through time through Ridley Scott's Gladiator at my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA. Or actually go to Letterboxd, which I love more these days, at Shahir D, I think is my
Shahir D.
Shahir D. Matt, when you are singing for your supper, where can people find you?
You can find me standing behind that red curtain with a big old Freddy Krueger glove at my website, extrahistory.com or Extra History on YouTube and Extra Credits on YouTube. I believe by the time this comes out, we will either have just done the Tuskegee Airmen,
nice.
Which is a phenomenal series, episode, excuse me. That I'm very, very proud of, written by friend of the show, Steve Van Patten. Mm-hmm. And then if not, that's already been out. We will have a Extra History Complete on Policing London. Again, very timely about how crime and punishment has adjusted over the years, starting with the thief-taker General Jonathan Wild, who, spoiler alert, was also a criminal. And then after that, we'll be looking at William McKinley. We're doing a 3-parter on that president who is normally just talked about for getting assassinated. Mm-hmm. But he did a lot of other stuff other than that. And the first episode, I believe, Shahir, is called William McKinley, Tariff King.
Famously mentioned in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I think.
Yeah, probably. Anywho... Until next time when we do whatever's on Shahir's list.
I think it's 28 years later. We've just come off Materialists, according to this. And we're saying this with this befuddled look on our face because we were recording these out of order.
And hopefully you can see the befuddled look on our face through your audio medium. Side note, we did get a comment on one of the shorts. Sorry, I don't have it pulled up right now saying, hey, will you guys ever film video for these?
Oh, really?
And I said, sadly, no. And they're like, fair enough. And I was like, yeah,
you should have said, we too ugly.
We too ugly.
We too ugly.
Anyway, we'll talk at you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.